So thanks again for joining us today. We have Steve Crawford from Experience Wealth and your spending coach. Steve was also previously the treasurer of the AFA, so he's quite well accomplished. Today's topic centres around how to create innovative strategies to better engage and advise 30-somethings. The 30-something demographic is a really interesting one. It straddles the division between Gen X and Gen Y, and according to research, the share of financial assets held by Gen X and Y will grow significantly in the future. Some say it will be as much as 70% of the assets by 2030. Although older generations will ultimately pass on much of their accumulated wealth, this might not help the younger generations much for now. The transfer of wealth may not actually come until about 12 years from now. The way this demographic thinks about finance is a little different than with previous generations. Steve Carpin, from the former CEO of Comsect, when asked about Generation Y and Z, said in an article in the Australian Financial Review in 2012 that Gen X and Y are more optimistic, they're more ambitious, and more willing to back their own decisions. They understand the principles of diversification. They average about 10 stocks. They like to trade primarily online, and they don't want to speak to us very often. They have a greater interest in mobile apps, and we see a disproportionate share of our younger customers using mobile trading platforms, not just for trading, but for information. These younger generations are typically wise beyond their years when it comes to saving for their financial futures, but the majority will still need some help figuring out what to do with their money. They're not that confident in their saving strategies. They embrace DIY strategies, and they typically manage their finances almost entirely online. Millennials are also the first modern era to have a high level of student loan debt, poverty and unemployment, and lower levels of wealth and personal income than their two immediate predecessor generations, the X's and the baby boomers. And that's why it's time to come up with some new strategies to engage them and help them prepare for the future. So I'll hand over to Steve, and he's going to give us our insights on just how we can do this.
Thanks, Keely, and everyone at NetWealth for, hosting myself today, and a big welcome to everybody online. I think Keely was just dragging that intro out to try and get us up to 200 attendees, which is a fantastic outcome for any sort of webinar. So great that you guys are here. As she said, everything's going to be recorded, so don't stress if it drops out at any stage. So I'm running sort of two screens today, so if I slow down for a little bit, it's only because I'm trying to keep up with what's happening on both screens. So all of you will be absolutely familiar with this. It's just a general disclaimer, even if some of the stuff that I talk about today you think is a valuable area that you can add back into your business, please check it and run it past your own licensee first. And if you've got any questions, you can let us know, and I'll tell you more about that later on. So you should have some goals for this session today, and in particular the ones that we want to try and help you get a really good understanding of is, first and foremost, what X and Y's really want. So the three things in particular that have brought them into our business, and I'll spend a couple of seconds just explaining our business so that everybody knows how we've, got a basis to make some of these claims around what they want. An insight into the things that have worked and what hasn't worked for us since early 2009 when we opened the doors of Experience Wealth, which is our advice and mortgage broking business. And then we'll use a case study of a real client of ours who we've renamed Sally Single, so that you can get a really good understanding of how some of these new areas of advice apply back into your business and how they add value from a client point of view. That's a really good segue into a value proposition, and look, it's a catchphrase that we've all got to have one, but I think the better you distill this so that the clients understand what it is that they're actually getting for what they're paying, and then importantly from your point of view, how do you deliver on that value proposition? I think there's far too many catchphrase value props floating around with not a lot of delivery behind them. So it's something that we've absolutely focused on in our business, and how a value proposition for a 30-something, in my opinion, has to look vastly different to a value proposition for a retiree or a pre-retiree. And then the last thing, we're going to have an action plan, stuff that you need to do when you get back, or you're already in the office, when you jump off the webinar, to help you really start to pull apart how you're going to build your own X and Y offer. So how do we know that nearly all X and Ys want the same three goals? So a really quick background on our business, in particular Experience Wealth to start with. I'll talk about your spending coach later, but we started the business, opened the doors with no clients, no referral partners, and never been an advisor before in February 2009. Just after the GFC, and we were targeting the X and Y market. Since then, we've grown to a practice of 4 staff. We look after about 85 clients, and we've gone on to probably do a fair few speaking sessions around the country on what X and Y want. And the reason why I can say we know is because my oldest client's 50. Our average client age is 36. And the average age of our new clients is actually around 31, 32. So over the last, 2009, we're up to 7 years now, when they come in and they talk to us, they want exactly the same things. As much as everybody likes to think that they're unique and special, at the end of the day, they're not. They want to start out with the 3 big things. Typically, it's around buying their first property, and we've got clients in Melbourne and in Sydney in particular. So property is a very expensive exercise for them. They also want to start their family. For us, our favourite type of prospective client is somebody that wants to buy a new property and start their family at the same time, because their complexity levels are going up and we know how to solve it. And then as they get a little bit older, they start that education journey. And the education journey, historically, from an industry point of view, we've only really focused on the public and the private school and the high school sector. But if you think about it, education starts at childcare these days. So there's that whole balancing act of working out how to put your kids in childcare, how many days a week you need to work to do that. Of course, as Keely was saying, X's and Y's are the aspirational generations. So the idea is they want to do everything that they want to do, plus they still want to maintain a really decent lifestyle, which is going out with their friends, having holidays, and hopefully looking as good as they can in the process. So because these are the things that they want, when they come in and they see you, if your offer if your offer for advice to them is heavily anchored in traditional advice, being insurance and investments and super, which is very valuable to their parents, and the investments and the super and the pensions is extremely valuable to their grandparents. But if that's the breadth of your offer, you're missing out, because if you think about it, all the stuff that they want to do around property, around schooling and education, and around expanding their family, everything is linked back to what they earn and what they spend. And so today we're going to spend a little bit of time focusing on that aspect of the advice spectrum. And it's something that historically the advice industry is really sort of left to one page on a fact find. How much do you earn? How much do you spend? Let's get a target savings figure, and then we'll build all these fancy projections off the back of that. And that's not a discredit to the individual advisors and your practices. It's more of an industry discredit, and I've sort of been on record saying this before. I don't think our licensees have done enough to help us in this space, and hence why Your Spending Coach exists, is because we help other advice businesses and mortgage broking businesses understand how to build this stuff. So what they want you to be, your X's and your Y's, they want you to be an expert. They don't want to feel like you're dabbling or dipping your toe into the X and Y market, but 90% of your time spent on their parents and their grandparents. So when they ask you questions around property and whether or not they can afford it, they actually want you to know how that decision is going to impact the rest of their budget, and we'll look at that in a second. Not just what the banks will lend them. They can do that themselves online. They'll want advice around the borrowing structures that they can use. Again, not just a straight referral to a bank. They'll want you to have an opinion on this. Now, obviously, NCCP rules will dictate how much you can and how much you can't say on this. And so our challenge is to challenge your licensees to help you get a really good understanding of how much of this conversation you can have versus how much of the conversation you need to work with a mortgage broker or a lending specialist to do. They'll expect you to understand the difference between the settlement types for property purchases, whether it's a direct sale or whether it's an auction. And then they'll want strategies about getting out of the property debt, not just getting into it. So how are you going to help them pay their loans off faster? Moving into the family space, it's pretty easy. Everyone has the goals. Well, typically in the X and Ys, most of our couples have family aspirations. We really only have probably about 5% of our clients that are planning on rocking kid-free. They're our annoying clients because they're constantly tagging us in Facebook from all the restaurants that they're going to and the things that they're doing, and we're just basically telling them to go away because it's annoying. But for the rest of us that have got kids, and I've got three boys, all primary school age now. So we've managed, the Crawfords individually have managed the pregnancy, maternity leave, return to work, tango 3 times. And it's a battle. It really is a battle to understand how much can you afford, how much time can one of you, typically the mum, afford to take off for maternity leave. How much money do you get back from your employer? How much money do you get back from the government? How does the childcare rebate system work? Do you get the baby bonus anymore, or don't you get a bonus anymore? And then when we go back to work, how many days a week do we have to work so that we can afford to pay the things that we need to pay and still have time off to spend with the kids during those early stages? Plus, there's obviously the psychological issues around parents, especially first-time parents, giving their pride and joy, the most precious thing in their life, to somebody else to look after. So advice is art, form and science, and the science bit you've absolutely got to have your head around. But what they also want to feel is an affinity that you've gone through or are going through the same things that they're going through at hopefully around about the same time frame. So this is why it's typically harder for older advisors whose kids are already out of school to build rapport, to build affinity with people that are starting their journey. It doesn't mean that it's impossible, but it's the same challenge that I would have at 36 trying to build a relationship around affinity and similar goals and aspirations as people that are retired. So these are the things in broader businesses. Maybe you've got younger planners, or you are a younger planner and you've been dealing with the retirees and the pre-retirees and you've been thinking about moving into the younger space. The opportunity's there, and you've got those shared goals and aspirations, which is going to give you a really good footing to come off. The education one, as I said, it's understanding how to deal with childcare rebate, it's understanding how to deal with return to work, thinking about public versus private. It's probably one of the most emotive conversations that our clients have, because typically you very rarely get both clients 100% on the same page. Knowing the different schooling systems between your public and your private tiers. So you've got your Catholic levels or your religious-based ones that come at a certain cost, and then you've got your full private ones. And now we're even starting to see a big shift into the thinking of more of the American model, which is private or public through the primary levels and even through the high school levels, and starting to think about helping their kids fund what is, we all know, going to be a massive university debt as the government looks more and more likely to restrict and reduce the amount that they fund from the HELP or the HEX system. So having understandings that sit behind this, when do you use education bonds versus regular investment strategies? When are they going to fund it from their cash flow or their savings? These are all the things that they expect you to have a really good understanding of. What they don't want to see is you doing we can look into that. They expect you to know it inside and out. So if you want to move into this space, you can find these things out, and when you find them out, you'll be very much rewarded, because they will absolutely go to a business that knows this because they do it day in, day out, as opposed to those that they feel like they're dabbling on it from time to time. Of course, then they'll have the expectation that they can maintain an awesome lifestyle, and it's your job to help them do exactly that. And the reality is, of course, as we all know, that everything has to be a trade-off. And so later on in the session, I'm going to talk to you about helping them get that trade-off. I don't sit here today having never made a mistake, and I think that's one of the things that that I always value when I go to a session. Obviously, I'm still an advisor now, and then I go to PD day sessions and conference sessions and peer group sessions. I love hearing about all the things that the presenter has stuffed up on. And so initially, one thing that I've learned is I came out of an investment company. I won't mention which one it was, but I worked there for 8 or 9 years, and they were an active fund manager, multi-manager, one of the 3-letter ones, which is really not going to do much for narrowing it down. But I came in with a pre-programmed view that X and Y's wanted intergenerational advice, and they wanted super advice, and they wanted insurance advice, and that's what it was all about. And it was about focusing on active management and all the strategies that sat behind there. And I sit here today, 7 years down the track, and our business now has a 100% index fund passive management strategy for all of our investments. And that's not because I know that it's the right way to do it. It's because it's what our clients prefer, and we can't prove that we add value in the other space, so we don't bother trying anymore. Now, that's a journey that we've been on, and it took me a while to let go of the things that I had pre-built as what I knew was right. And the reality is, until you deal with them, until you ask them, you're not going to know. So the big thing that I'd learned is hang up your preconceived ideas and ask your clients, or the kids of your clients, or the grandkids of your clients, what do they want? What do they value? And they'll probably tell you it's around the goals and the achievement of the goals. Importantly, they want to see how they're tracking. So a lot of the industry does goal planning these days, but not enough of us do the tracking for anything other than the retirement and the super stuff. Now, if your tracking's around savings towards property, or savings towards maternity leave, or savings towards education funds and things like that, and you're not tracking, how do they know that they're on the right path? So that's something that we definitely bolstered and added in, and that's hence where your spending coaches come from, because it went from an area that was, in my opinion, menial administration work, being budgeting and reporting, into the single biggest driver of why we get clients in our business today, by miles. Another thing I've learned, if you don't do debt, you don't have an offer for Gen Ys and Gen Xs. And that doesn't mean that you need to be a mortgage broker or have an internal credit license. If you can't help them with a debt solution, which is either getting a loan to buy a property or working out how to pay the thing off faster, they will go to somebody who can, because in their eyes, when we've surveyed our clients, out of insurance, super, investments, debt and tax, debt is the one that they care about more than anything else, and they pretty much lump the rest of them in equal last. So it's not even like debt's just a little bit above, it is miles above in terms of their priorities. Today I've had 2 phone conversations from clients so far, and both of them have been about debt. Yesterday, same thing. Tomorrow it'll be the same thing. So if you want to have an offer in this space, you've got to deal with it. So speak to your licensee. If you're a mortgage broker, that's fantastic. If you've got access one, even better. That's why we brought mortgage broking skills in-house, because we knew that our clients wanted it, needed it, and that was the best method for us. Keep your pricing really simple. I had the most complicated fee structure at the start, with a commission on insurance, a percentage of assets, with a minimum fee hurdle that they had to jump, and if we got paid more in one, we'd subsidise it in another, and it was so complicated that they actually couldn't explain it back to us. They were happy to pay because the end dollar figure was around about the right mark for them, but the way that it was constructed was really confusing for them. And the problem for us as a business was, with no clients, no referral partners, we needed our clients to refer other people through to us. And so the conversation that they'd have with their friends and family and colleagues was, do these guys do a good job? And the answer would be yes. And the next thing that would come out of their mouth is, what does it cost? And they would usually say, stuffed if we know, it's pretty hard to explain, you should go and speak to them and they'll do it. And so our referrals weren't as good as they could have been because our fee model was too complicated. So we shifted it. We aligned the value. 4 or 5 years ago now, we stopped taking commission on risk, and we moved to a flat fee model where it's a set dollar fee for the initial advice in options, and then a set monthly fee in options as well, depending on the level of ongoing support that they want. As soon as we shifted to the flat fee, our referrals went up. And it wasn't because we did anything different. We still got paid the same amount. It was easier for our clients to then go on and say, oh, it's a set fee, and it depends on what you want, but you can choose the package that suits you best. And we were very deliberate in choosing packages and constructing them in a way that was similar to what they paid when it came to things like mobile phone plans and Foxtel plans. Because in our opinion, our clients view us as a lifestyle choice, which means we have to compete and compare with other lifestyle choices that they make. So that was something that we learned. Which brings us into this CVP thing, which I hate that you know, the industry puts too much pressure on building these CVPs as a beautiful phrase that can go on your boardroom wall. For us, the CVP has to be really simple for the clients to understand, and it has to be something that drives the way you do what you do in your business. So 7 years down the track, after starting out in the first year with a ridiculously convoluted CVP, because I was told that's the way that it always had to be, even though they say it's simple, the consultants, it never ends up bloody simple. It's still 27 pages long. Ours has been distilled right back to, we help our clients make smarter, more confident decisions around what they do with their money. That's it. That's our entire CVP. Now, the reason why we say that we'll help our clients make smarter, more confident decisions is our clients are smart and confident when they come and see us. So our job is, it has to be a win-with client. We have to help them get better at this stuff. Smart stems from the education side of our business, which is we will teach our clients how to do this by themselves without us, which is a fairly scary prospect when you've started a business with no clients and you don't have any referral partners and you've sort of given up a fairly cushy job in corporate world, to basically say that your plan is to make yourself redundant. The reality is, though, for X's and Y's, they don't think that they need us anyway. So they really hate the idea that you're going to hold them over a barrel, either implicitly or explicitly, and I think it's more implicit than explicit these days. You're going to hold them over a barrel of knowledge that says, I know the answers to the questions that you have to ask, and therefore, if I keep those answers, you'll continually come back to me. And that's not the case. Google has broken all of those rules. They will find that out themselves. Some of you are probably Googling things now because you're starting to lose a little bit of train of thought with my monotone voice, and that's okay. I'm cool with that. We don't have exclusivity to knowledge anymore, and the fact that you empower your clients with the knowledge to do this stuff themselves actually shifts the value in your favor, because they know that you're not trying to force them to stay. You're going to teach them to do it themselves, and everybody wants to be empowered. The confidence or more confidence piece is where the real kicker comes in, and that's around giving them ways to use that knowledge to make decisions. And that's where I'll show you in the next slide how we actually do that. And that's really, in our opinion, the reason why our clients continue to choose to pay their monthly fees and stay as clients with us, is because we help them make more confident decisions. They would make these decisions themselves anyway, but they might not confidently do it, and they love the confidence that comes from the way that we can show them how those decisions play out, both in isolation and in context of everything else that they want to do. So the way that CVP is sort of articulated on a slide, and this is the Experience Wealth house view on how we help our clients become financially independent. So all the stuff that they've said they want to do, the property, buying it, paying it off, having families, expanding those, building education funds, getting ahead. You know, it's a very common phrase. If we feel like we just need to be getting ahead, or we should be making better use of our money, all of that stuff stems back to becoming financially independent. And the industry is historically focused on one independence point, as retirement, as the all singing, all dancing definition of financial independence. And whilst it is the litmus test, because if you retire and you don't have enough money and your money runs out before you, then you end up being crazy old lady eating cat food, and nobody wants that of any of our clients. But you try telling a 30-year-old that the way that you're going to define success is when they hit 65 or 70 and they access their super. That is a longer time frame than they've been alive to have to wait to realize value. So you can't just pin everything on the financial independence that comes with traditional investment and super strategies. Whilst they are valuable, they will not actually make clients give you money to get help. You've got to give them mini independence moments along the journey and re-articulate independence to be something else, where it's around choices and options. Your ability to choose, Mr. and Mrs. Client, to live in the house that you want to live in and have kids and send them to school, versus being forced to live in an area that you don't necessarily like, being forced to send them to public school when you really want to do private, being forced to work 5 days a week for mum instead of wanting to work 3 days a week. So independence for us is choice. So the way we articulate the CVP and our value to our clients is we'll give them a set of guiding principles that drive their ability to become financially independent faster and understand those components and the importance of each of those components. Now, the industry is historically focused on the bottom two, being the strategies and the products. And I actually think that's largely because as an industry, we didn't have a lot of solutions around the money management space, to be honest. I mean, even going back when we started doing this, our money management solution was run off Excel spreadsheets. We got our clients to manually download their bank transactions out of all of their accounts. They'd email it through to us, which is not very safe from an encrypting point of view. And we would reconcile them and then wrap them up and send them back to them in some sort of reports. But today we sit here and there's loads of businesses and software that the clients can either A, do it themselves, or B, do it with your support. And I'll talk about the support stuff and how valuable that can be. In our opinion, and in our experience, a money management program which encapsulates a budgeting, banking, and reporting aspect of the program drives about 50% of our clients' value and 50% of their ability to become financially independent. Now, we're explicit with that. We state it. We put a flag in the hill and we work towards it. Because if you've got a client who earns $100 every month and spends $100 every month, good luck building wealth and helping them become financially independent over and above what the bank forces them to pay off their mortgage and what their employer chucks into their super fund. And that doesn't give them a lot of choice, and it doesn't give them many options. And all the products in the world aren't going to help them because they're not accessing it. So logically for us, it made sense that we needed a money management solution, and we needed it over and above just technology. And we needed to help our clients understand how they get all of these things working together. And that's where your spending coach came from, was 6 or 7 years of working through this. I constantly got asked, how do we do it? How do we do it? How do we do it? To the extent that I used my skills from a corporate background and training and built a program that teaches other advisors and mortgage brokers exactly how to do what we do. And at the end, I'll show you how you can get access to a pretty cool tool that we've built, which is going to be available to the netwealth, everybody on the webinar until Monday. So I'll show you that in a second as well. So moving through then, you've got to sort of break your components of advice into different areas. And the money management for us is really the combination of two things, a spending and savings plan and a banking and lending plan. And today I'm going to focus in particular on the spending and savings side, not so much banking and lending. But you can see, even through the other aspects of advice, we don't say insurance strategies and super strategies because clients don't think about it like that. They just think, you're going to help me protect my lifestyle with some insurance. They don't think of it as a strategy. So we've really been, we put a lot of focus on trying to de-industry language our offer and reposition it in a way that it makes sense through to them. So the spending and savings plan, what is it? It's effectively, it's two of the three components of the money management offer, and your three components, as I said, was budgeting, banking, and reporting. Budgeting is where everything starts. So in the Spending Coach program, we spent a lot of time deconstructing and then constructing your budgeting offer, same with the banking, same with the reporting side. But at a really high level today, what you want to get your clients to do is accept that there's 4 phases in the budgeting psychology, and the first phase is acceptance. That budgets are good, not evil. And unless they accept that a budget is going to be the preeminent thing that helps kick off their journey towards financial independence, you're never going to have an offer for them. And they will never stick to their budgets. And that's why you have clients that would write down on their fact finds that they're going to save 20 grand and they'll come back 12 months later and they'll have nothing. Because they've either A, not accepted that budgets are a good thing, and not put any sort of budget in place, or they haven't moved through the other phases. And the second phase is awareness, and awareness really relates to what do we spend money on, and because you need to deal with real numbers here. So spending money goes into two different categories: living expenses and lifestyle spending. And living expenses can be really easily defined as stuff you spend because you have to, and lifestyle spending is stuff you spend because you want to. And the key here is to get a balance between those two, where the balance is reasonable. So you're not going to have a quarter of their income going towards living expenses, because it just doesn't work like that. It's non-negotiables. Education, utilities, health, housing, transport, food, financials, these things have to be spent. Now, because of our program, we've actually been able to track and prove what our clients spend on each of these different categories. Over the last 3 years, we've produced a benchmark or an index called the Living and Lifestyle Index. And we've shown, I think, that our clients on average spend just over 50% of their income. I think it's more around 55% of their income on living expenses. And it's been consistent the last 3 years. So we already know what our clients are going to need to allocate for that. The real trick comes in helping them get the balance between the lifestyle and the savings bit. And that's about a mix of what I get to do that makes me happy now versus what I set aside that makes me happy later. You can't you can't dictate this to them. So the deal with your budgeting agreement with your clients has to be that you'll control one component, which is how the expenses are categorized, and they control how much they spend on each one. And the benefit of doing that is they'll buy in then, because if they feel like you're telling them what they can and can't spend, it's not going to work. And work, in our opinion, is the actual end result. So the average Aussie saves just under 10% of their income if you use the ABS data around savings as a percentage of disposable income. You can Google that and you can pull that report up. Our average client for the last 3 years running has saved around about 19% of their income. So we know our average client saves roughly double what the Aussie average does. So we know that it works. We've got some clients that are saving 30 and 40%, and you'll look at one of these in a second. The whole point of this is they don't just get that because they want to have a budget and they've got all the will and drive. They have a full support program that enables them to get that. And that's why in Your Spending Coach we focus on building those. And I'm going to give you one of those tools today at the end, just one of the tools that we use. Now I'm going to put the theory into practice, and the way we're going to do that is by looking at a case study. In our case study, we're going to call her Sally Single. That's obviously not her name. Yes, she earns a lot of money for her age, but the reason why I've chosen her is she's a really good example of a non-typical financial services client, because she only had, when she started with us, about 40 grand in super, and she worked for a big corporate, so she's got income protection, she's got life and TPD, so good luck making any money out of her from a traditional offer. But from a non-traditional point of view, you can add an enormous amount of value by helping her make confident decisions, because she has enough money to make those. She wants a coach, she wants a guide, somebody that helps her make those decisions, because she arguably could do it herself, but she loves the idea of having validation. So she's come through to us, and she already owns an apartment in South Bank, and she's got a mortgage, but she wants to buy a new place. And herein lies the challenge. So Sally has a penchant for hipster boys, and hipster boys in Melbourne will aggregate and congregate around the Brunswick area. They're probably moving a little bit further out, but Sally wants to move where the hipster boys are, because hipster boys go to where there's good cafes, good bars, and she really loves that, which is demonstrated in the bottom part around maintaining a decent lifestyle. This is a key value for her. Ideally, she'd love to keep her South Bank property that she's already got, because her parents have told her property only ever goes up and you never sell it. You just keep getting more and more and more of them. We need to help her make that decision. Now, the way we're going to do that is by using the data. Now, the data that we've produced has been produced out of a program called Xero, which is an accounting package. You can also use another program called MoneySoft to do this. In our opinion, they're two of the best ones. There are obviously other software programs that you can use, but these are the best ones from a business point of view, because you can actually run all your clients and see them all together like you would in a normal platform kind of view. Now we're going to flick quickly to a spreadsheet to have a look at how we've used the data to help Sally make this decision. Now what I've got here, and I'm sort of looking to the left, so I'm going to try and move the mic around with me so you guys can still hear me properly. This is Sally's data through to the end of June 2014. So it's 12 months worth of income and expenses. And you can see on the left-hand side, we've got the start of the split of her expenses into those living categories. So we've got education, financials, food, health, housing, loan and bank charges, transport, utilities, and then a total living spend. And we keep going further down. We've got her personal spending, her entertainment, and I'm just hoping that that screen will keep moving with me on the right hand side. It is, and holidays and looking good. And presents, total lifestyle spending and total savings. So she's in a really good position to start with because she saved $44,000 after tax that year. Which equated to 34% of her income, and compared to her benchmark, which is our singles, so we split our clients into singles, couples and families, our average single saved 20% of their income, so she was above average, and so in a really good starting point. Slightly below average from a lifestyle spend from a percentage point of view, but still a fairly decent lifestyle in her opinion, which was $30,500 per year. Now, because we've got that data, we can actually do a current versus proposed scenario. So what we've done is we've picked up, and I apologise for the ugliness of our screen, so I'll try and move this through so you guys can see everything at the same time without it being too ugly. Ignore the graph on the right for a second. What we've done is we've basically said, okay, well, she already owns her property. She wants to rent it out. Excuse me. So we've applied a rental yield figure of 5%. Now the first, and that's a mistake, we would never apply 5%, but historically clients would be very optimistic of what they can do. So we'd probably be more conservative on the income side and drop that down to 3.5. In fact, we wouldn't guess, we'd get the actual rental appraisal and then carve out the 7% that the real estate's going to take from them and then put that figure in. There's a 5% figure there that's being used as an interest rate. So you get some income, which we've chucked in as an extra amount, and then we've added in the new cost for the interest on the new apartment. And you can see what that does is it increases her loan charges as a percentage of her income right up to 42% compared to a benchmark of 15%. If we flow through, she's got a living expenses figure around 59% compared to 50%. Lifestyle stays exactly the same, nothing changes there. So her savings now makes her bog standard average compared to everybody else. And here's where Sally's a really good example of the modern type of client. Now, some of your clients will still be very heavily focused on the wealth creation side of things, but remember, one of Sally's things that she said she wanted to do was maintain a decent lifestyle. Now, I'm just going to try and shrink this to get that graph all on the one screen. Now what you can see here is just we've recut her numbers using 3 comparison points for her, and this is the whole point behind more confident decisions. You'd be amazed how many of our clients are happy to make decisions when they know what everybody else just like them is doing. They don't want to be too far of an outlier. So Sally's comparison points here is current Sally, which is on the left, and you can see her mix there between living, lifestyle and savings. Proposed Sally was obviously a huge kick up in the living expenses side, being the loan repayment, and then her benchmark. And the reality was for Sally, she wanted to look at another scenario, which was what happens if she sells the property. So we've shown that one mix, and now we're just going to flick the toggle to sell. And behind the scenes, what that's done is it's turned the income off on the rental for her property. And I'll bring the graph back up. I apologize, I'm just trying to make sure everything's working. So it's brought, she's not getting income on a South Bank property anymore. It's removed some of the debt on the new purchase because she's sold the South Bank property for more than what her loans are. So she's got more money to chuck in the bank, which means her new loan's lower. And you can see the mix there is far more evenly distributed. And that's the end result for our Sally. She's decided to sell her South Bank place. Now, where a traditional financial planning model may have been asset growth trumps everything else, and technically she's still on the average income, for her, that put too much pressure on a job, She really wanted to maintain that lifestyle. She also wanted to be an above average savings achiever, so she wasn't happy with going back to average because she's competitive. So for her, the better outcome was to sell the property and take on an overall mix that was far more comfortable for her. Now, the challenge that we put back to you is you might get the same Sally walking into your business, but if you don't have this sort of data available, how do you help her make that decision over and above just telling her theoretically what her options are and which one makes more sense? This is why the money management side has grown from being initially a pain in the backside, probably more of a compliance tool, to the single biggest driver of why we get clients into our business these days. In fact, we've never had a referral for insurance or super. Every single referral we get is around goals, around the debt side and the money management side. And that's why we've created Spending Coach, to help other planners and mortgage brokers get the same benefits that we've seen over the last few years. So guys, and girls, we're now into the action plan phase. And so what I don't want you doing is this being another hour worth of CPD, which is great. That's fantastic that you get that stuff, but you've got to do something with it. So a process that you can follow, really simple one, is to look at how you're actually going to construct your Gen XY advice offer using 5 steps. The first one is identify what they actually want help with. So it's both that combination of solving problems and achieving goals. Then look at the areas of advice that you need to deliver to help them with those solutions. Rank those areas of advice in terms of value from a client point of view. Compare that with what you can control and then get started. So a really simple tool you could use is just this little matrix board, identifying typical goals on the left-hand side, looking at the areas of advice that are needed, and then challenging yourself to see whether or not you do those now. So if the typical goal is manage my money better, then clearly a budgeting, banking, and a reporting advice area are required. If you don't do that now, and you believe that from a client's point of view, from an XY or a 30-something, that's something they're going to really value, you need to go and get it. And obviously Spending Coach is one of the places you can get it, or you can go and train yourself on how to do it. Buying property, do you have property solutions? Do you have a property advice business that you can work with? Not one that's taking a clip on the way in and on the way out, a truly client-focused one where they might charge a fee if they want help finding those properties. Same with their family and the starting. Do you understand how the childcare system works, how the paid parental leave system works? If you don't, you've got to get better at it. Because if you go through all of these, you will struggle to see insurance and super and tax as being areas of advice that they need help with. Now, your business might be different to ours, but again, in 7 years or 6 years, however long I've been doing this, we've never had a client call and say, I want tax advice, I want super advice, I want investment advice, I want insurance advice. They do it, but they do it after we've educated them on the merits of it, but they mainly do it as a byproduct of the other conversations. The really tough thing for you to do is then start ranking those different types of advice areas into things that they value on a high, medium, or low front, and then comparing that with what you can control. Because you want your value proposition linked to things where the clients place high value, where you have high areas of control over. This presentation will be emailed through to you in a PDF, so you can just use these slides as a template. Then the last thing you've got to work out is how often are you going to do this for them. So how often are you going to work with the spending and savings plan? Is it annually, half yearly, quarterly, monthly, or in our instance, our clients get stuff weekly. They get weekly spending snapshots that show them how they're tracking towards their spending, 5 of their big spending targets that they're trying to hit each month. And then what medium are you going to use to distribute this? Old school face-to-face, which is still extremely valuable in a lot of areas. Go-to meeting, which we're obviously on today. Videos. So our last round of quarterly progress meetings that we had with our clients, we gave them 3 options: face-to-face meeting, go-to meeting, or a pre-recorded video. Only 10% of our clients chose the face-to-face meeting. 60% wanted a go-to meeting, and 30% actually wanted a pre-recorded video pack of the things they needed to work on. The reason why we know that is we've asked them. So we use Camtasia, we use GoToMeeting, we use Dropbox. The technology is going to really drive that. The reason why we use NetWealth for superannuation is because our clients love the prospect of electronic signatures. They hate paper-based applications. So internally in our business, the way that we've built our offer has been 100% client-focused. It's not preachy. I'm not trying to sound like we're awesome and you guys aren't, because I'm sure your businesses are bigger and better than mine. But what we've really tried to do is think, okay, well, if it's hard enough running a business and it's hard enough going after this market, you might as well have some fun with them. And having fun means they're not fighting with you every step of the way in that engagement model. Guys, one thing before I hand over to Keely, who may have a couple of questions, hopefully, from the group, otherwise this is going to be awkward for 10 minutes of silence at the end, is I wanted to give you something today. So on the Your Spending Coach website, so it's www.yourspendingcoach.com.au, there will be a banner ad that goes across the top screen. On that, you can download, courtesy of our good friends at NetWealth. They've asked me nicely to give you some extra stuff today. So until Monday afternoon at 5 o'clock, you'll be able to access our budget calculator, which has our benchmarks in it. It's a really cool little one-pager that you can use where you can click singles, couples and families, jump on the website, click the access button, grab it. It'll ask you to go through some details. Look, it's a mailing list for us to be able to talk to you after this if you want more help. If you don't want to, you can unsubscribe within 30 seconds and we'll never have to bother you ever again. There's also an option there for you to click a button to ask for a 15-minute phone chat with myself using our Time Trade online meeting booking system. So you can find out more around the budgeting tool and how to use it, and then also a little bit more around Spending Coach. I have magically somehow come in on time and finishing at 20 past 12 in terms of my bid. I thank you so much for those that have toughed it out, and I can still see we have 230 attendees, which is amazing. So thank you so much for hanging with me and Keely for 50 minutes, and we may have some questions to go to now.
Thanks so much for that, Steve. We do have quite a few questions from our attentive audience today. Thank you everybody for staying online for the session. Just to remind you that this presentation is CPD accredited. We will be sending out a link to a short questionnaire for you to receive your CPD certificate. We are also sending out the slides and a recording of this presentation, so do keep an eye out for those in your email. Steve, I'll just get you to repeat your website address because a few people have asked just to please repeat it.
Okay, so there's two websites. The Advice Business, if you want to see how we, I suppose, what our shop front window looks like to the to our advice and mortgage broking clients, is obviously experiencewealth.com.au, and then yourspendingcoach.com.au is our training program where we help other advisors and mortgage brokers build their own money management program. It's basically our Experience Wealth offer, just white labelled, and you can copy it identically.
I do have a few people that are commenting saying that the website seems to be crashing at the moment, so we've done like Kim Kardashian and broke the internet with all of this traffic, so I'm sure Steve's team will get that back online for you guys.
Yeah, look, we probably only get one click every 7 years, so 100 clicks in 1 minute's going to kill it. It's going to stay up until Monday afternoon, guys, so don't stress. If you can't get it now, just click in another half an hour or an hour or later today or tomorrow, and it'll definitely be there. Worst case, if you can't get it, just email to contact@yourspendingcoach, and we'll send it through to you, or you can just email Keely or the NetWealth guys, and I'm sure they'll put your details through to us.
Yes, we will make sure that you get through to those resources, so stay patient, please. Okay, so a couple of questions that we do have from the session. The first one is, how do you actually market to the 30-something demographic?
So obviously it's a really good and key question when you start with no clients. The historical version is, I'm going to get the parents to tell the kids to come in. Good luck with that, because how many kids listen to their parents? Not many, if any. So that path, whilst it may work, the way that we've found that that's worked with other businesses that we've coached in the Y market is it's got to be a different advisor, and it has to be a younger advisor. So the older advisor deals with the parents or the grandparents, and then it's an internal referral to a younger advisor, and you pretty much get out of the road and let them run it, and you build a Chinese wall or a barrier in between so they don't feel like They don't even need to literally see each other. That's obviously if you've got the benefit of having those existing clients that you can tap into. The way that you can use that for your internal ones is those same 3 goals. Ask your parents or your grandparents, how are your kids going with buying their first property or paying their loan off? Are they telling you that everything's on track? Are they starting to have kids? Are they tapping you on the shoulder to do nanny, grand babysitting because they don't want to do childcare? Would you like us to help them get their head around how to make those decisions and get a good balance? So that's a good way. They're not going to want a referral for insurance or super. You will get that advice from them, but don't lead with it. For external clients, our new a business that we're merging with, Firefly Wealth, Adele Martin in Newcastle. She's brilliant at this stuff, and part of the reason why we're merging with her is she's far, far better at it than I am. And Facebook marketing is where we're doing it, and we're using I suppose, a lead generation model where you give them something, a lot of education, free material, and then they'll click through and then buy in on that way. Other ways that we do it is through client referrals. Obviously, we've built a whole program off the back of a guy called David King from View Consulting. He had a program called View by Referral. After you've done your spending coach, if you've got leftover money, go and pay David to do his program. He teaches you how to build referral packs for your clients. It's really good because it just makes the whole process seamless. So there's no one perfect solution. You want to blend, but just having a Facebook page or a Twitter handle, it ain't going to cut it.
Great, thank you, Steve. And for those who were on our December webinar session, you will remember we did a topic around how to use digital marketing for your advice practice. So if you're able to go to the NetWealth website, we do have some content around that. And if you email us, we do have an ebook that we can send you on some tools that we recommend that you use, as well as some practices. Okay, so we do have quite a few questions rolling in around your fee structure. There's quite a few different questions coming through. So I'll ask the first one that came through was, what would be a fair value fee given that you're charging for a service and you can't take commission? There's a few other people asking if you'd be happy to go into your structure more, or what's the typical monthly fee?
Yeah, so we don't hide around our fees. So we have, and I talked to you today probably on version 72 of our fee model. So, and my team hope to God that it doesn't change in the next 5 days. We seem to have found a model that's working. So we charge a money management plan fee, and we separate it between singles and couples. So a single for a money management plan would pay $995. A couple would pay $1,995. Then we have a pack where it's around the goal planning, which includes the money management side, but then mapping out all of their goals as well. We have a goals-based approach where we walk our clients through wish list, through to goals board, through to action plan, and we break their goals into lifestyle and financial. So there's a fair bit of work that sits behind this and meetings that flow through. And that, from top of my head, is around about $3,500 for couples, and I think it's about $2 and a bit for singles. You can see how fresh this pricing is because I've probably forgotten the exact figure. Again, go through to the NetWealth guys, and if you want to know, I can send you our pricing. There's no dramas there at all. Monthly, ongoing. We charge a flat fee for retirement plan, lifestyle protection plan, and estate plan all wrapped up together, and that is typically, if available, charged to the superannuation fund as a one-off advice fee, assuming that we can obviously do it legally and from a compliant point of view. Ongoing package fees is DIY, which is really just the reporting on its own, no help, is as little as $99 a month, going through 2 or 3 options up to a full financial personal coach with unlimited contact. Monthly meetings is ranging, that's up around $450 a month for singles and $590 for couples.
Great, we do have quite a few questions around that area, so for those of you who are asking for more information, I will possibly, if Steve's happy to, link you up with him by email so you can chat further. We do have people asking if they can meet with Steve to discuss how to incorporate something similar in their business, and I'm sure Steve will be more than happy to do that. So again, I'll hook you up with Steve by email if you are looking for that. A couple of questions around your lifestyle indexes and spending profile data. The first one was, how skewed do you estimate that it is by the type of person that actually comes to you? Is it a smaller pond kind of issue? And the other thing was, how do you get that data? Is it by ABS data or profiling otherwise?
Yeah, so the comparison data is the easy one. So if you Google the ABS data, and the benchmark we measure to is savings as a percentage of disposable income. So if you Google that, then you'll easily find that information, and the ABS punches that out, I think, on a rolling quarterly basis. The data around our lifestyle index and whether or not it's skewed, the reality, or the true answer is we don't know, because we can only benchmark our own clients, and all the data is obviously anonymized, so we're not breaching any privacy rules or anything like that. Our clients understand and agree to have their data put into this mix so that they can sort of peer over the financial fence of their peers and see what everybody else is doing. My gut feel is for living expenses, it's actually not, it wouldn't be too far from the average, because our average client's they're definitely not earning 190, they're closer to that 110, 120 grand mark. It's a little bit above the Aussie average, but probably not too dissimilar to the types of clients that we're all targeting, the income high net worth as opposed to the asset high net worth. Our experience, people spend in line with their earning capacity. So as the income goes up, the home gets bigger, so either the rent gets bigger or the loan gets bigger. It takes more to heat it, so your utilities typically go up. The quality of the food that you're buying and the places you're going goes up. So I don't think they're too skewed, other than to say if you had people sub $80,000, you would probably find a higher percentage of living expenses and a lower savings and lower lifestyle spend.
Great, and we don't have much time left, so any questions that we do have unanswered, I will send through to Steve, and we'll arrange a way to get those answers to you all. But on that question of people with different incomes, we've had a few questions come in. One was around with mortgage clients that don't have a huge extra income. How do they save and build wealth when everything they've got goes to mortgage? And there were other people asking about clients that don't have the same income as Sally Single, with less capacity to save. So a similar question.
Yeah, and look, at the end of the day, you largely can't control the living expenses component of what goes out. You can influence it, but you can't control it. So this isn't about telling them to shop at Aldi over shopping at Woolies or things like that. I mean, you can, as I said, influence it, but you can't control it. Loans is a really good example of that. But our experience is, with all due respect, banks don't do as good a job of teaching clients how to use their loan structures to reduce their interest costs. They do a really good job of getting them into the loan, not so good a job of getting them out of the loan. And you can't really blame them, because they're a commercial entity and they make money on interest. Whereas we've got a really good understanding of how offset account structures work. We use multiple offsets in our lending business because single offsets, in our opinion, don't work as well because they become a giant slush fund. Splitting money up into different accounts, and this is where the banking component of that budgeting, banking and reporting side really plays through, helping clients split their accounts into spending accounts, storage accounts and savings accounts. It's about making the most of what you've got. So even if they have a lower percentage that can get allocated to lifestyle and savings, they should still be using a really good lending structure that enables them to pay the least amount of interest, which will gradually over time increase the amount that they can allocate towards their lifestyle and their savings. And obviously we'll teach you how to do all of that, last plug, at the Your Spending Coach program, which comes up in March on the 10th and 11th in Melbourne.
Great, and on that I'll just get you to repeat not only your website again, but also somebody asking again for the referral package that you mentioned. If you can just repeat both of those for us.
Yeah. So experiencewealth.com.au, yourspendingcoach.com.au, and the referral one is David King, and his company is View Consulting, so VUE Consulting. When you get there, can you let him know that I sent you, so he gives me a pat on the back? I don't get any kickbacks from any of these other guys either. There's no cross promotion. I don't get anything from Xero, and we don't get anything from MoneySoft either. The reason why we recommend the people that we do, we don't get anything from NetWealth other than getting to hang out with you guys for an hour. The reason why we use the businesses that we use is, in our opinion, they're the best at what they do to help our clients. And our clients, as I said, are average age is 34. So we needed technology-driven businesses. We needed modern thinking businesses and partners that really want to work in this space. They're out there. You've just got to go looking for them. Challenge your licensees to help you more in this. Respectfully challenge. But at the end of the day, if your licensee is not, helping you, you've got to go and look for it yourself. Don't just sit back and expect them to put this out on a platter, because they don't know as much about this as we would, because it's our target market. That's it.
Great. Thanks so much again for coming in today and speaking with us all, Steve. It's been a really great presentation. I'm sure everybody found it very insightful. A reminder that this presentation was CPD accredited, so thanks for staying on. We will be sending you out a link to a short questionnaire that you will have to fill out to be eligible for that CPD certificate. We'll send that out by email along with the content from today's webinar. And again, just keep an eye out for that. Our next session will be in March, and we'll be sending out another email invitation for that one. And don't forget to check back to the yourspendingcoach.com.au website if you're having trouble accessing it now. I'm sure it will be back up and running very shortly. Thanks again for your time today.